The train stopped in the middle of a forest. No station, no platform, no reason given. 22,000 men stepped off that train. None of them ever came back. And for 50 years, an entire government looked the world in the eye and lied about every single one of them. This is not a war story. This is not a battlefield story. This is the story of what happens when a government decides that educated men are too dangerous to be allowed to live. Poland, 1939. In a single month, two of the most powerful military forces on Earth invaded the same country from opposite sides. Germany came from the west. The Soviet Union came from the east. Poland was cut in half like paper. But the Soviets did not just want the land. They wanted something else. Something specific. They wanted the men who could rebuild Poland after they were gone. The officers, the lawyers, the doctors, the professors, the engineers, the priests, the intellectuals, every man who had the education and the authority to lead a nation back to its feet. The Soviets wanted every single one of them removed. Not imprisoned, removed. In the weeks after the Soviet invasion, Polish military officers were ordered to report for processing. They were told they would be held temporarily. They were told their families would be informed. They were told they would be released. They believed it. 22,000 men surrendered peacefully because they believed in rules. They believed in the laws of war. They believed that the uniform they wore meant something. They were loaded into trains and moved east, deep into Soviet territory. 3 camps received them: Kozulsk, Starobelsk, Ostashkov. The camps were cold, underfed, overcrowded, and run by the NKVD, the Soviet secret police. But the men kept their dignity. They organized lectures. They played chess. They wrote letters home. The letters arrived. For a while. Then in April 1940, the letters stopped. All of them. From all 3 camps. At the same time, the families wrote back. No response. They wrote to Soviet authorities. No response. They wrote to the Red Cross. No response. 22,000 men, fathers, husbands, sons, vanished behind Soviet borders, and the silence that came back was total. What actually happened in April 1940 did not come from a battlefield. It came from a memo. A memo signed by Lavrentiy Beria, head of the NKVD, and approved by Joseph Stalin himself. The memo recommended the execution of all Polish officers held in the 3 camps. The reason given was that they were hardened, uncompromising enemies of Soviet authority. The reason not given was that Stalin understood exactly what educated men do. They remember, they organize, they resist, and they teach the next generation to do the same. The executions began in April 1940. The men were taken from the camps in small groups, loaded into vehicles, and driven into the Katyn Forest near Smolensk. Each man was led to the edge of a trench. His hands were bound behind his back with rope. A single shot, back of the skull. Soviet NKVD pistol. German ammunition, a detail that would matter later. They worked through the list methodically. Every day, for weeks. When it was over, they covered the trenches with soil and planted pine trees on top. The forest closed over 22,000 men. And the Soviet Union said absolutely nothing. For 3 years, the families heard nothing. For 3 years, the Polish government in exile in London received nothing. For 3 years, 22,000 men simply did not exist. Then in 1943, German forces occupying the Smolensk region made a discovery in the Katyn Forest. Mass graves, thousands of bodies in Polish military uniforms, hands bound behind their backs, single gunshot wounds to the back of the skull. The Germans immediately announced it to the world, not out of justice, out of strategy. They wanted to fracture the Allied coalition, to drive a wedge between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union. And it almost worked. Poland demanded an independent investigation by the International Red Cross. The Soviet Union immediately accused Germany of committing the massacre and fabricating the evidence. Britain and America had a problem. They needed the Soviet Union to win the war. They could not afford to lose Stalin as an ally. So they said nothing that mattered. The investigation was buried. The Allied press was pressured to drop the story. And at the Nuremberg trials in 1946, where Germany was prosecuted for war crimes, the Soviet Union actually tried to charge Germany with the Katyn Massacre. Germany, for a crime the Soviet Union had committed. The tribunal quietly dropped the charge when the evidence made the accusation impossible to sustain. But no one said who actually did it. Not officially. Not yet. For the next 45 years, the Soviet Union maintained that Germany committed the Katyn Massacre. In Soviet-controlled Poland, this was the official truth taught in every school. Teachers repeated it. Textbooks printed it. Anyone who questioned it risked their career, their freedom, or worse. But the families knew. The survivors who had escaped or been released knew. Polish academics working underground knew. They passed the truth through samizdat, illegally printed pamphlets distributed in secret. They whispered it in kitchens. They carved it into collective memory where the state could not reach it. The widows raised children who grew up knowing their fathers had been murdered, but were legally required to believe something else. That specific kind of violence, making a people participate in erasing their own history, is what separates Katyn from a massacre. It is what makes it something darker. Then in 1990, 50 years after the bullets, the Soviet Union under Mikhail Gorbachev officially admitted it. The documents were handed to Poland. Stalin's signature was on the execution order. Beria's memo was there. The lists were there. Every name, every camp, every authorization. The evidence had existed in Soviet archives the entire time. 50 years. They had it for 50 years. Poland received the files. The families received confirmation. The graves were formally identified. A memorial was built in the Katyn Forest, rows of identical dark grave markers stretching between pine trees, on the same ground where the men were buried. But here is what they never fully resolved. Russia has never allowed an independent criminal prosecution. The investigation opened in 1990 was officially closed in 2004. Most of the case files remain classified. The victims were never formally rehabilitated under Russian law until a partial ruling in 2004. And even that ruling was later challenged. The memorial exists. The apology exists. But the full legal reckoning, the one that would name every individual NKVD officer who pulled the trigger, has never happened. 22,000 men, doctors, officers, priests, professors, killed because they were exactly the kind of people a nation needs. Buried in a forest, covered with trees, denied for 50 years. And the world looked the other way because the timing was inconvenient. History does not forget what governments choose to bury. It only waits. And this channel exists because these stories deserve to be heard, completely, accurately, without the version that powerful people preferred you to believe. If this story reached you, it reached you because someone somewhere decided it mattered. You can be that person for someone else. Drop the name of your country in the comments right now. We are building a map of every country where this story is being watched. And the comment you leave is the reason the algorithm sends this to someone who has never heard the name Katyn. Share this to one person who thinks they know how World War II ended. Because if they have never heard this story, they only know half of it. There are more countries, more forests, more names that powerful governments spent decades trying to make the world forget. We are not done.